Hello and welcome to a tutorial on rotoscoping. Today I'll be going through some really basic stuff in rotoscoping, and so I'd like to begin with going through like the real basics. So this is a quick roto that I have done, the top half of the taxi. So let me just bring back to the normal view, and this is the plate. Got this black cap that we want to roto. So I'm not going to do the whole thing, and I'm just going to explain to you how I did the top half. So to begin with, the first thing before you start off is you go to your node graph and press S, and this will bring up the project settings. You want to make sure that your project settings is at the correct format, because when you go and create a roto node, like when I press O, um, this will take the root format in, so you might not want to be rotoing on a wrong format. So that's something to take note of. So just let me delete this. There are two nodes. The one that I used is the roto, and there is another which is P, which is the roto paint. This one does roto and paint, but today I'll just be using a roto node because I find it less confusing. So that if someone else takes my script, they know that this is just for roto and not a paint. So I'm just gonna walk you through this, but this is basically whatever you need to know of the roto node is also the same use in the roto paint node. So don't worry, it is basically the same thing. The only difference is that the paint node has paint functions. That's all. So, firstly, this is how I roto. To create a new roto, if you let me just create a new one for you to take a look. Uh, by default, when you create a new roto node, you automatically the Bezier mode is activated, and you can immediately draw Bezier like this. And then this is how you close it when you bring it back to the first point that you started off with. So Beziers are the most common used. There are other stuff, B-splines, which is a bit harder to use. To me, it's a bit harder. Yep, this is one way of drawing them. We have the ellipse and the rectangle. So I will be going through Bezier because this is the most commonly used and fastest so far. I'm just gonna delete all this over here using this. So I'll just click on all my splines and do a right click and delete. So to create a new spline, V is the hotkey. So you just press V and then you can start drawing. Unfortunately, alright, so this is just one shape that I've drawn here. So let's say we want to smoothen them out. You could just select one point, press Ctrl A to select all of them, and press Z key to do a smooth. This is over the top. So just undo this, press smooth. To make it more cusp, it's Shift Z, which will make it a really hard edge. But usually it's a Z key to smoothen it. So for example, let's just bring this to the cap like this. So this is the rough shape, and it's quite accurate. So you want to try your best to create the shape with the least points as possible. Make it the simpler the better. That's basically the first rule of Roto. So simpler the better, and simpler hotkeys the better. So you want to create as little hotkeys as you want for each roto. So this is quite nice to do. Alright, so there are a few keys over here that has been made. So there are two keyframes and the rest is in between. And you usually want to start off with the main keyframes and then go in between them, adjust it, and then go in between the adjusted keyframes again and again and again until it gets a perfect match like this one over here, which I've done. So just take a look at the one that I've done. So this is basically what I've uh, drawn, and as you can see, my shapes are all separated, which is very important. It's better for you because it's easier to animate each different shapes than drawing one whole shape for the whole car. This is way faster to work, and you will avoid a lot of wobbling issues, or they call it boiling, when sometimes your points keep jumping around as the image goes. So in order to avoid that, please use a tracker or split them up in shapes like what I've done here. Even for this top, I've split them up. So um, some important things for you to note while drawing a shape. There are some hotkeys that you should know. So I've said this one, which is select a point and press Ctrl A to select all. To create a new point, you can press Ctrl and Alt. This will create a new point. If you wanna do a expand, like a transform, it's just select all, and you get these transform keys, like in Photoshop. This uniform transforms. If you want the uniform transform, just hold down the shift key, and there's some other important stuff, which is corner pinning. So instead of uh, doing this, you hold down Control Shift and you can do kind of a perspective warp, you might say, or a corner pin warp. It's very useful. It will be you will probably use this from time to time. Um, and then there is the sharing you can do, which is shift. You can just hold down shift and do this, and then if you press control, you can just uh, move one side of the transform, which is the control key only. So that's all mainly for hotkeys. The one extra stuff that you might want to know is the Z key, which I've set to smoothen this. And there's something else as well, which is um, if you select a bezier, you can see this arrow sign. So basically what this does is that if you pull out the arrow sign, it will bring out a feather. So if I just view this, you can see that there's a feathering going on. Uh, so just bring this back here. Just take them, hold the control key and pull them out. If you want to bring it back into the original place, it's Shift E, which will bring it back. There's a hotkey as well. If you just right click, you can see some hotkeys. So that's basically for the feathering. Whenever you want to feather, make sure that the feather goes out and not in like this. Because if you do it like this, it's gonna cause a lot of problems. So please do not do it this way. The feathers are always outwards, like this. Okay, so let's just dump this and take a look at my script. So basically this is my roto, what I've done for 20 frames. And the first thing you want to do to check your roto is to create a copy node. You can create a copy node using the tab key, type in copy, and it will bring you a copy node. So what this node does, it's basically it brings in the alpha that you created from the roto node and it copies it into this plate. So initially when you bring in the plate, if I check the alpha channel, it's nothing, it's 0. And once I've copied it and I view this, you can see that my scan now has an alpha channel, which is from my roto. And then you want to pre-mount it to cut it out. And there are two ways of checking. One is the color check, so just a simple key mix, and you can see my uh, my my roto being overlaid with a color onto the scan. And the other way is to do a 50% gray card and you put it over it like this, and this will enable you to check the edges carefully. So let's talk about checking edges. So let's view this in 1 and the scan at 2. So basically sometimes when we check edges, we check it like this on every frame. So for example, if we find something going off like this is going off, we will say that this you need to pull this out. So you gotta go back to your roto node and pull this out like this, so it stays better. So it really depends on what your roto is used for, and yeah, depends on that, and you see whether you need the appropriate quality. So something important to note is that whenever you create roto points, make sure when you roto, try to keep your points as consistent as you can. For example, these 3 points are here in frame 14, and they remain to be in the same area until for the rest of the the entire range. Make sure that your points do not shift around like this, because it will create boiling issues, which is not what you want at all. And it's very hard to fix boiling issues. Sometimes the most probably, if you have a lot of boiling issues, the best way is to redo the whole thing, which will take a lot of time again. So as you can see here, I have some motion blur. To enable the motion blur, it's this sign here. So this is just to turn it on and off. This is the motion blur toggle button, and if I have it toggled on, if I go to the shape node, you can see I can adjust the shutter speed. So this will adjust the motion blur. Wow, look at this. Yep, that's way too much. I think my default was 0.09. Yep, and this shutter offset will change the way the motion blur is calculated. So it basically shifts the whole thing over left or right. As you can see, like this. Most probably you will not be touching any of these. especially the shutter offset. The most you'll be touching is the shutter button or the motion blur. So yep, this is basically what I have to cover today. um, this is really basic stuff. Just important though, the most important thing to note out of this is that please keep your roto simple and consistent. This will be the best working way to do it. In the future I'll be going through tutorials on how to use trackers and how to apply them on the roto shape. So this is for now. Thank you.